One. We are live. We are back. The RTF Show. Brother John, how's it going? A new season awaits.
Oh, it's doing pretty well. I'm looking right at you. We're here
Indeed.
live from the studio. Hey there.
Recording live and in person. We are happy to be back. Another season is upon us, the 2021 season. We're here today. We're going to take you through a little bit of some of the changes that came about over the off season. We'll take you through the schedule, the new payouts. We'll talk a little bit about the contract system, and then what you all want to hear. We're going to talk about each of your teams briefly, go through a couple contracts that we think are either a good idea or a bad idea, and then we'll wrap it up. I've got the GOAT going, the GOAT jersey on to celebrate the Bulls' return to prominence. As you can see, John's celebrating the shitty Space Jam movie that LeBron made by drinking out of a Space Jam glass.
The original Space Jam cup, though. I mean, come on. Yeah, we'll see what Adam Silver does with your tampering investigation that was just released on Saturday. So that's exciting. But yeah, it was a long off season. Longer than it will usually be. Next season we'll do some more. We'll open up the season earlier and do some restricted free agent auction and stuff like that. So it's been far too long. But I'm happy to be here and happy to get back into it.
For sure. All right. Well, let's get started. Perhaps the biggest change this season is the addition of a 14th week into the fantasy football schedule, the addition of a 17th or 18th week into the NFL schedule. We will be incorporating a 14-week season, mostly because the way that buys fall and the way that our league is structured, it doesn't seem as though we can just ignore it. So
no, we can't. I mean, the NFL has buys in week 14, and so we can't start our playoffs with buys happening. So we just had to add it, and hopefully they don't take the 17th game away. I don't think they will, though, because money talks.
Indeed. So here we are. We've got the schedule up for you right in front of you. Things are going to work a little bit differently this season. Actually, they're going to work more as they were intended to work last season and didn't quite work out that way. In the first 3 weeks, you will play each of your division rivals, and you'll play them again in weeks
11 to 13.
Yes, 11 to 13. So the middle of the season, you'll be playing non-division opponents. You'll play each non-division opponent once, and then you'll play, obviously, your division opponents. You will play twice, except for one lucky non-division opponent that you will play twice. And that, my friends, will happen during the rivalry week of the season. Rivalry week is week 14. It will be a non-division game. And John and I are here to announce who the rivals are. So we started off, we thought it'd be a good idea to make ourselves rivals just because we were the two shittiest teams in the league last year, and we should be punished for being so awful.
And we've been doing it for, 32 years now, 33 years now. And why stop now? So
Indeed. And then we've got Ken versus Kramer. That's Peter Kramer versus Ken Hoffman, the finals matchup from last year. So huge rivalry happening there.
Couple juggernauts,
Yep.
And to be only fair, Peter Kramer, probably the most well-liked person in our family, and Ken trying to break into that. And so I think we'll see a lot of off-field trash talk as well, not just fantasy football related. So I'm excited to see how that blossoms.
All right. Then we've got a couple others. So Kelly versus Steve will make up our third rivalry.
And Kelly knocked Steve out, right?
Indeed,
in the first week of the playoffs. So we thought maybe we give a little redemption there, see if Steve can get back at Kelly. Although I faced Kelly in many of other leagues, and it never goes well for me. So good luck, Steve.
Yep. Then we've got Bill versus Charlie, two league shit talkers in the group. Me, Charlie, going around accusing people of homophobia. Bill generally just spouting some nonsense here and there. So we're excited to see what comes of that. Rounding us out, we've got two more. Sullivan, that's Peter Sullivan versus Josh Porter. Peter versus Josh here, and I think this is something that could develop into a really good rivalry. And I think coming into the season here, we've got two teams that are kind of on the same wavelength, right? Didn't do much last year, but bought themselves a little bit of space for the beginning of this season, and could have some room to operate. We'll have a little bit more to talk about there.
Yeah, I'm excited for that because we'll get more into the contracts and whatnot. But as it stands, Peter and Josh have the most draft capital going into the auction.
Indeed.
On the 28th. So,
and then to round it out, Alec Loesch versus Brendan Fitzgerald. I think this one, again, kind of like the Sullivan versus Porter, you've got two teams. Alex in a little bit better position because he's got a little bit more draft capital. However, neither of them have any great contracts that they're going to be able to keep. We'll dive right into that actually right after this next segment. So that is your rivalry week for the season. Again, those games will be played week 14. So that's 2 games against your division opponents, 1 game against everybody else, in addition to another game against your non-division rival.
Yeah.
All right.
Shit talking going,
Indeed.
I want to see it come out hot and heavy.
For sure. Divisions played out the same way. We are not changing the divisions. One thing that did not stay the same was the payout structure. So we're happy to announce the new payout structure. We got a few things that are changing here, and we're really excited about. So as you all know, the league fee upped to $150 this year, which, given I think the amount of work that people are putting into this, is a good thing. Let's give the victor a little bit more bang for their buck. So what it came to was the champion getting $900, it's 50% of the pot. Second place walking away with nearly a quarter of the pot at $400. Third place getting their money back. We will continue the Survivor League the same way that we did last year. So we'll refresh your memory on how those rules work as we get closer to the season. We're going to throw a little bit of money to the consolation bracket winner, which maybe that gives people a little bit of incentive not to shut it down.
But throughout the season, if we want to talk about ways to make the consolation bracket a little bit more entertaining, keep people involved. If $50 doesn't do that, then we can have those conversations and we'll go from there. But for this season, it'll be that. And then we've got a great new addition that we're pretty excited about. Our 6 weekly prizes. We didn't want to spread the money out over each week. It felt like it was going to be a little bit boring to just give $5 or $10 to each week. So we did 6 weekly prizes. We got your traditional weekly high total points.
For 3 of them, we'll do a weekly high. So we'll do a weekly high in week 1, another one in week 6, another one in week 12. I'm not really sure why all these weeks got fucked up in this listing here, but kind of spreading it out. So week 1, week 6, week 12. And then we got 3 kind of special weeks. So the first one is in week 3. It's going to be a league pick'em. Yeah. You have to pick not NFL matchups. You need to pick fantasy matchups. And the money will go to the person with the highest record in the Pick'em pool. The second one is going to come week 9. Why don't you tell us what that one is, John?
So it's happening in Bourbon Street, and it's going to be the team that scores the most TDs on the week. And so start your high flyers, your big boom bust guys, and team with the most touchdowns scored on the week will get the weekly prize.
Indeed. And then finally, week 14, to go right into that rivalry week, we are doing a finish 'em weekly high. What is that, or weekly prize? What is that, John?
Very exciting. You know, you want to crush your rivals, and so the team that beats the rival by the most points will receive the weekly prize. So you really want to curb stomp your rival that week, and hopefully it's to make spot into the playoffs or to knock them out of the playoffs. That would just be an added bonus there. But yeah, should add a little bit extra.
Indeed. The last thing you'll see on there is an administrative fee that we're introducing this year. This may not be a consistent thing every year, may change a little bit as we go forward. But in order to purchase a trophy for the league and maybe do a few things online that we'd like to debut later in the season, we need a little bit of cushion here administratively. So $50 to administrative costs.
So we're not going to pay ourselves 25 cents an hour on this? No?
I thought we just weren't going to admit that.
Sorry about that.
Okay. All right. So any questions about this? Again, please feel free to email the league office. But let's get into the reason why we're here, what everybody's most excited about.
Yep.
And that is the beginning of the season, the contracts that are going to be due for everybody. So just to remind people what we're looking at in terms of auction funds, Alec has $212, William Boylan has $188, Brendan Fitzgerald $188, Charlie $185, John $221, Josh $222, Kelly down there with $179, Ken's got $192, I've got $200, didn't make any moves, Peter Kramer at $176, which is the least, I believe, amount of auction funds available, and Peter Sullivan with the most amount of auction funds available at $236 after a successful fire sale late in the season.
Say fire?
Yeah, sale. And then Steve rounding us out, $186. Okay, we're going to go through this team by team. We won't spend too long on each team. We want to hit everybody, though. So let's start with the AJLs with Alec Loesch's team. Again, $212 to spend. And I was looking through this team, trying to find some guys that I thought might be, a deal for him, a steal, somebody he could sign to a contract that either this year or long-term would make sense for him. I only came away with one name on Alec's team. It's a big money guy too, but he's got a couple extra dollars to spend, so I feel like this is the right play. Derrick Henry at $52. You put Derrick Henry on a, you could do a 3-year deal there. You'd end up at about $60 in that final year, which I think is, barring any major injury, and obviously running backs are a short-term success position, but that's still pretty good. His average draft value right now is over $60. So I don't know if I'd sign a 3-year contract. I might just go with the 2-year contract.
Yeah. Looking at the 2, it's still that's what I plugged into. The 2-year is still a great deal. You're gonna pay $60 for Derrick Henry most likely. This year, and when you're talking about whether you do a 2-year or a 3-year, you don't know what other people's draft capital is going to be in that 3rd year, and maybe this is Alex sees some success in the next year or two, and then maybe I am sure that someone with a little extra draft capital, like Alex in a position right now, or Sullivan's in a position right now, he might be able to move that third year, entering the third year, and so you have to kind of weigh that cost savings in the first 2 years. And then, hope you can move that third year, which we'll see throughout this, kind of what people can do in that sense.
Yeah.
Whether it makes sense to just offer a 2-year or the 3-year. I would like to touch just a second. He's got a couple players that I would take a look at. No, Chris Godwin, not terrible, but you just don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be in a year or two. After Tom Brady at some point retires, who knows? But it's not terrible for what could be the next a great wide receiver. Although I wouldn't take that risk. But the only other play looking at this would be Mooney.
Yeah, I don't think Mooney's worth keeping at $10 right now. That Bears quarterback situation is a huge question mark. You still have Allen Robinson there. I mean, you can, if a guy like Alec really wants Mooney, go out and pay $10 for him in the auction.
Yeah, that's if you, one, believe in Fields, and two, believe that perhaps Allen Robinson won't be there, depending on his contract.
So you're saying sign him to a long-term?
I would say, yeah. It's a possibility for sure.
I don't know that I've seen quite enough yet from Mooney to sign him to a long-term deal. But them's the breaks. Godwin, I don't know that I'd go there with Godwin just yet. So, 30. You're going to be paying at least $30-something most likely each year. That's a lot of money. All right, let's move on to the Hollow Earthers. The Hollow Earthers are really in a similar situation. I did not find a lot of players that I thought were worth keeping. You could look at somebody like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but $47 I think is way too much for him. DeAndre Hopkins, same thing. Way too much for DeAndre Hopkins, I think, at 46. Maybe you sign him to a 1-year deal just because you want him, but Bill is short on auction money this year. I don't know that that's the best route. The one guy that I targeted was Myles Gaskin. $1. I think, Myles Gaskin right now is going for over $10 in average auctions at the moment. I think closer to 20 than to 10. So I think that's a steal. Somebody maybe you lock up for 2 or 3 years.
The only other player that I targeted or was looking at there would be potentially Josh Allen. He's okay. He's a player that just signed a long-term deal, and for 10, 11, for 11. Up to $12. That's not bad at all. And so, if you think he's going to be a top 5 quarterback for the next several years, I think it's pretty good steal there at $10 initial value.
Agreed. I'd lock up Josh Allen as well.
And added bonus, Ken doesn't get him.
True.
Huge.
Very true.
I'd do it just for that.
All right. Next team, the Bomboleros. Here we go. So Fitz is in a really, really rough way. He's down on draft capital, so he's only got $188. He's not going to keep Christian McCaffrey. Kenny Galladay injured. Not going to keep Kenny Galladay. Miles Sanders. No, way too much money. The only guy that I was able to pick out of there that I thought maybe he would keep is that guy like Kareem Hunt. But even that, Kareem Hunt, $13, you're going to keep him for around 15 or 16. Even that is very close to what he's going for right now in average auctions, and I just don't think is worth that money. What do you think? Is there anybody I'm missing here that maybe he latches onto?
No, I mean we had an opportunity this weekend to see Fitz and talk a little shop over a few beers, and yeah, it's he's right on the money and being very realistic that he is likely to keep no player this year, and which ultimately will give you quite a bit of capital in the actual auction to go out and target some players. So it might actually benefit him this year to not keep any players, and he'd be going into the draft most likely with the most money.
Possibly, yeah. That's a I guess positive way to look at it, but he'd have the most amount of money with no players, so he'd still have to spend the same amount of money on all those players.
Yeah, but I mean, he could target some of the bigger, some of the bigger names, and then be in a similar position as where everyone else is after that.
True.
Allocating some money. So,
all right. Well, Fitz, I think you're fucked. All right. Next team, Charlie. Oh boy, Charlie's team. So Charlie's got a couple guys here. He's got the entire Packers roster, obviously, and he's got Cole Beasley. Maybe you get a little bit of that vaccine magic mixed in there. Anti-vaccine. But there wasn't a lot to love on Charlie's roster outside of Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones. $40.
Oh my God.
Maybe you keep Aaron Jones. One of the things, and this actually maybe relates to what you were saying with Brendan's team. One of the things that I think is interesting here. So some of these guys are going to drop into some of these big name guys that are going for 40, 50, $60 are obviously going to drop back into the auction pool. And you have some teams that have a lot of capital. And as we'll get further down the road, some of those teams don't have a lot of players that are really worth keeping and aren't going to eat too much into that capital. So, for somebody like Charlie, he may just not have, obviously last year he wanted Devontae, he wanted Jones, he wanted Rodgers, and he went out and got them.
Do that again this year?
I just don't know that he could.
I don't know if I keep them.
The prices on those guys are going to go up.
Well, yeah, I think Aaron Jones, if you signed a 3-year deal, you're looking at $44, $45, and then $46 in the third year, which aligns well with the 4-year contracts he just signed. However, if this truly is the last dance for Aaron Rodgers, will Aaron Jones's value hold up in a few years? Obviously, and, Jordan Love doesn't appear to be the real deal, but
how do we know that?
Oh, based on unbiased reports that I've read from ChicagoBears.com and stuff, and. But yeah, Devontae Adams at 57 next year, 58, and then 59 the following year. Unless he goes and plays for Derek Carr and the Raiders, maybe, but you can't. That's going to be that's a lot of ifs.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way you keep. I wouldn't keep Aaron Jones if I were him. He's just the only guy that I saw as a potential keeper, and to keep him on a 1-year contract, you'd be paying $48. So I just don't know that it's perfect for somebody like Charlie who doesn't have enough draft money to begin with. Shall we move on to your team?
Oh boy.
Quick
segment here. Okay.
Here we go. Your team. I only again targeted one player on your team that I thought was worth keeping. That's CeeDee Lamb. I think that's an obvious one. I would imagine that you keep CeeDee Lamb, right?
Yep, that's about it. I looked at a couple other guys. I'm still on the fence with Tyler Boyd. I think he, in the Bengals, Joe Burrow has enough arm, and they will throw enough to support potentially 3,000-yard guys. And that's, the rookie, Tyler Boyd, and then T. Higgins. And so potentially, but I'm just not sure that it's quite worth it there. And then that's about it. There are two other guys that I wanted to keep, which was A.J. Dillon, but with Aaron Jones re-signing, that kind of ruined that long shot. And then Cortland Sutton was also a guy that I was hoping to be able to re-sign, but Denver has not done anything at the quarterback position.
Yeah.
And I do not want.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tyler Boyd. If you really wanted to keep Tyler Boyd, fine. You're a little over market on him. You have the money. What's interesting about Tyler Boyd is he's only 26, which he feels like a guy that's been around forever. But I think maybe keep him. I don't know that I would. I'd just go into the draft with all that capital. Okay, wings and pizza. So wings and pizza, much like Peter Sullivan's team that we kind of compared them to at the outset, a team with a lot of draft money to play with, $222. I targeted two players on Josh's team that I thought might be worth keeping. DeAndre Swift, David Montgomery. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's kind of hard. And for me at least, I generally try and shy away from any Detroit Lions player, especially now that Goff is their starting quarterback. Just perennial loser teams don't necessarily always put up good fantasy numbers. So Swift, I want to believe, but still, it's a difficult position. And Montgomery at $12 isn't bad at all, and I scored the fourth most fantasy points last year. People are thinking that he's going to drop, but at that price, he's going for over $30 in auction right now, auction draft. So
yeah.
1350, 1380. That's a steal.
So I think there's some questions here that you want to ask yourself, if you're Josh, or I would imagine Josh is asking himself. If you keep DeAndre Swift and you keep David Montgomery, your starting running backs are David Montgomery and DeAndre Swift. And are those two starting running backs who, likely are really both RB2s, maybe high-end RB2s at best, but are those the two guys you want to go into the season with as your starting running backs? And I don't know that you do, especially when you know that guys like, Kamara, Barkley now is hurt, but, Jones, Chubb, some of these guys may not get kept. And so McCaffrey may not get kept. And so maybe, you want to go out and get a high-priced guy with that leftover cash that you have. So I think that's the question you're asking yourself. And then maybe you're looking over at the wide receivers and saying, if I have, two high-end, middling, maybe RB2s, I'm going to have to make up with the receiver budget. But then you look at the top-end receivers, and we'll get to this in a second. I think, Devontae Adams probably available. Charlie probably doesn't keep him. Tyreek Hill maybe available, I think, probably available. But then, Stephon Diggs, he's getting kept. Calvin Ridley, he's getting kept. DK Metcalf, he's getting kept. AJ Brown, kept. Justin Jefferson, kept. So, you go on down the line, and those top-end wide receivers that a lot of people got really good deals on last year are probably going to be kept. So, I don't know. I don't know what you do.
Yeah, you're going to have to pick and choose there. Maybe you do keep both Swift and Montgomery and then go all in on you didn't mention Michael Thomas being kept, but we'll get to that. Never mind.
Yeah. Okay.
Otherwise, I don't really see. Cam Akers would have been a great grade stuff 14.
Yeah. Yep.
And do you sign him and sort of? I don't think you can at this point. No.
I don't think that's something you do in the first year of a contract. I don't know that you sign a guy that you know is not going to play. All right. Let's move on to Kelly's team. All right.
Yeah, this is an exciting team. I'm excited for this. Right off the bat, Dalvin Cook at $58. If you sign him for a 3-year deal, 58, 59, 60.
Mm-hmm.
He's going for $70 right now in most auctions. And so
yeah, so I think Dalvin Cook is there. I mean, I think the guy you probably bank on signing again is Adam Thielen.
He's anti-vax too.
Is he anti-vax?
Yep. Yeah. That's
well, at this point, you got a couple weeks. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you don't keep Adam Thielen. The guy,
but that's a great deal for him. I mean, I agree.
Other than that, Dalvin Cook, I would keep Dalvin Cook, even though I'm at 179 in terms of draft assets. Dalvin Cook, that's a deal. $58 or whatever it's going to cost to keep him. You lock him up long term. That's a deal for him. Yep. And you're going to need high end guys like him on value contracts, even if that value feels, like a real kick in the teeth when you actually look down at it. But
looking at any others, I mean, Julio Jones at 43 is insane. Odell Beckham Jr. 27. Maybe 5 years ago that would have been a steal. Certainly not now. Lamar Jackson, there's no way you keep him at 33, regardless of his COVID situation. And then looking at otherwise like Deebo Samuel, after not going to take that risk.
Nope.
Yeah. I mean, how about TJ Hawkinson though? What do you think at the $10 minimum?
That's interesting. I mean, TJ Hawkinson probably a top 10 for sure, maybe a top 5 tight end this year. But you were also the guy that just said you wouldn't keep Detroit Lions players. So.
Yeah, I agree with that. Potentially he is a top 5 guy, trending that way. Average auction price at 17. I mean, certainly still don't like Jared Goff. However, Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, they survived off of Goff for a number of years. And so,
Goff's tight end situation. There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
So, but however you look at the Lions wide receiver core, can you name one on the Lions wide receiver?
No, that's a fair point.
All
right.
But also, you go out and pay that $10 this year and essentially walked in.
Yeah. Okay.
And then for 3 years, tough.
All right. That's Kelly's team. Let's move along. Thoughts and prayers. Ken, who is down a little bit of auction money, 192, not in the worst situation in the world, but he's got some guys that are on good deals. And, I think that I targeted 4 wide receivers for him. He's not going to keep all 4 wide receivers, but there's some guys here that I think he definitely keeps. DK Metcalf, Calvin Ridley on those contracts. I mean, I think for Ken, the idea has to be you get Calvin Ridley and DK Metcalf on 3-year contracts, and that is your, wide receiving core and kind of the heart and soul of your team for the next 3 years.
Yeah. I think, then those 2, I think, are the most obvious. You have to keep those. Then you get into situations like Robert Woods at $18. That's a pretty good deal, I would think. He's going for about 22 in drafts right now, so you're getting about a $2 deal, I guess, if you sign a 3-year deal. And then the big question for me is Travis Kelce at 45 initial value, and then 49, 50, 51 for a 3-year deal, and average draft price right now for Kelsey is $60. The question is, will he? I think he's north of 32 at this point.
$60
for Travis Kelsey.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, by the time the season starts, we're into the season, he's going to be 32.
Okay.
Maybe you keep him on a 1-year deal, but I just don't know that that's worth it.
He's been the top tight end for the last 5 years. The 5th year being number 2. So
a 1-year contract is $54. If you're Ken, you're already down some draft money. I would probably just be happy to keep those 2 wide receivers and go into the draft.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I mean, if you're looking at Metcalf and Ridley, and then if he does end up keeping Robert Woods and Kelsey, Kelsey on a 1-year deal, you're looking at $126, and you got $70 to go and get the rest of your roster, which isn't terrible, to be honest.
No, not at all.
To have your top 2 wide receivers, your flex, and your tight end
all taken care of.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's giving Pat Mahomes at 50. But
okay,
moving on.
Let's move on. The Decatur Staleys. Oh boy, I didn't highlight anything here. I have some ideas about who I'm going to keep, but I'm not going to reveal them here. I'll let you take it away, John.
Yeah, the top 2 guys. I mean, obviously keep Michael Thomas.
Obviously, yes.
Just kidding.
Thomas and Zeke.
Thomas and Zeke. Run it back. Someone who I think still has some gas left in the tank is Keenan Allen, and $16. That's well below his average auction price at 26 for this season. Looking at Brandon Ayuk, he's definitely someone that you would be taking a little bit of a risk, but showed a lot of promise last year, and I think would probably be worth taking a risk on. And then going down that line, I mean, Justin Herbert showed a lot of promise, and maybe you can get him for $6-7 this year, but I think there's going to be a bit of a bidding more for these young quarterbacks, especially for people that, I mean, most of our league is not keeping a quarterback. We're only getting maybe 1 or 2 quarterbacks kept. Me personally, I'd love to lock up a young quarterback for the next 3 years, so that's a possibility there. And then Deontay Johnson, $8, also a great deal. However, I just a Big Ben threatens to retire every year, and wow, were those backups terrible when he was injured and they brought in Haskins. Yeah,
I mean, the guys that you mentioned are certainly the guys that I'm looking at. Keenan Allen, I think I definitely keep Keenan Allen. Justin Herbert is an interesting thought. I've contemplated it. I don't know that I want to tie up that much money in a quarterback, but it's certainly something I'll consider. And then the 2 that I've had to think a lot about are Deontay Johnson and Brandon Ayuk. So we'll see. For some reason, I just realized those 2 guys are on there twice. But,
well, ultimately, you're looking at keeping a couple wide receivers. You're definitely going to have to go out and pay for a running back. And much like me, last year with Barkley and you with Zeke, we failed to hit on our high price expensive running backs.
All right, let's move on. The next team we're going to go to, the Alpha Peters. The Alpha Peters have less draft money than anybody, but they won a championship, so what the fuck do they care? Their fan base should be fine for at least the next couple of years, and they should be placated. But that said, there's a couple guys with $176. I don't think you keep the high-end guys like Chubb or, even those other 2 running backs, like, Jonathan Taylor could be a guy that you keep if you had a little bit more money. He's going for more than that $29 right now. Chris Carson, I think that's about his auction price right now. Chubb, that's maybe right around his auction price right now. But I don't know that you do that given the circumstances. If I were Kramer, I'm going with the two guys that I got the best deals on right now, and that's Stephon Diggs and Justin Jefferson, two top 10 wide receivers that, combined you're able to keep for less than $25, $30.
Yeah, I think, having talked to Peter a little bit this off season, and especially once the contract spreadsheet came out, definitely Diggs and Jefferson will be kept. There's just no way you can release those guys back into the pool. However, looking at his team, we talked about Dalvin Cook being a great deal. 58. Alvin Kamara at 3-year deal at 60.
Oh shit! I forgot about Alvin Kamara all the way down there. I think he'd be. Deal. I think he'd be a damn fool to keep Alvin Kamara.
You think so?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, so let's
You heard me, Peter. A damn fool.
I mean, that's I think one take. I think at 60, 61, 63, those are great contracts, and he could easily flip it in the next year or two for maybe some young prospects. For someone that's making a run, but I'd rather be in the driver's seat.
Looks like.
And then also, just last one I would highlight is Kyler Murray. He is going for $34 in average auctions, and if you can keep him for $15, $40,
$34 in $200 auction leagues, he's going for $34.
Yep,
that's fucking.
I mean, he's a top 5. He's a top 3 quarterback. I mean,
I wouldn't pay more than $30 for any quarterback, including Pat Mahomes. That's crazy. Yeah. Okay, nuts. Well, Peter, yeah. I think Diggs, Jefferson, no brainers. If I were to keep a running back, I would not keep Kamara. I'd keep Taylor.
That's fair, yeah. I mean, if you're looking at, let's say, Diggs, Murray, Jefferson, Taylor, Kamara, you're looking at $133 in contracts for the first year. Not only goes up, that leaves him with $43 to field the rest of his team. So, oh, he also has Darrell Henderson, which maybe on a 1-year deal at $20.
Yeah, maybe you keep Darrell Henderson
per year.
I mean, yeah, in this situation, sure. All right, the average Peters. I targeted 2 guys on the average Peters. Terry McLaurin at $18, I think is worth probably keeping. I don't know. I don't feel great about it, but I'd probably keep him. And then T. Higgins, who Peter declared his love for last season. That Bengals offense, I think, again, probably keep him. I'm not sure, but I think those 2 guys are the guys that I would go with. I know Pete is a big fan of Joe Burrow, and I think may end up keeping him at a cost that's going to be more than what his draft price would be. And then you hope that if you sign him to a 3-year contract at some point, that contract is a steal. But we'll see. Any other guys or anything you want to comment about on those guys?
Not really. You talked about Terry McLaurin at 18. Yeah, I mean, I think that's still just a difficult situation. I think he's got the talent. He's going for above that by about $7. But it's just a tough situation.
The other thing to note here, right, is Pete's got $36 extra. He's got more than anybody else. Now, you can use that one of 2 ways. You can use it to keep a bunch of guys that you perceive are going to be deals that are already on your team, or you use it to go out and get the high-priced guys that you really want, the really good guys that you want on your team. And that is probably the route I would take. There's other deals on this team. Damian Harris is probably a deal right now. He's going to go for more than $10, so you could probably keep a guy like him. So I don't think he'd be crazy to keep McLaurin, Higgins, even Damian Harris. But if I were him, I'd probably try to save a lot of that draft money.
Completely agree. I don't know if going and paying an extra $10, because like Joe Burrow right now, average auction price is $3. I don't think paying an extra $8 just to get him, when you could probably pay an extra $4 and get him at like $6 or $7 in the auction if you really want him to have that stack with T. Higgins. But I don't know if, like you said, that is the best allocation of your extra draft capital to put that towards Damian Harris or Joe Burrow or anyone else there. So,
all right, well, we'll see. Last but certainly not least, the Barracudas. The Barracudas have a few guys. I mean, the one problem I think with the Barracudas, obviously, is that they don't have a lot of auction money. $186. I highlighted three guys. So I highlighted J.K. Dobbins, Antonio Gibson. I think I would definitely keep Gibson. That's a steal at $11. J.K. Dobbins at 22. I think that's also kind of a steal. So I'd probably stick with Dobbins.
I'm not sure I like him as much.
I don't either. But I mean, I think that's maybe you find yourself in a similar situation. I think we talked about this earlier. Was it with Josh's team with Montgomery and Swift? Are those the two running backs you want to go into the season with? I don't know. So maybe you choose one of those guys. And then Darren Waller, I think you have to keep at 12.
Oh, no brainer. Yeah, no brainer.
Is there anybody else on the team? I mean, AJ Brown at 31.
Yeah,
that's about right around his auction price. So maybe you keep, AJ Brown, but I don't know.
That 34 in the first year would be right at his auction pricing. As that offense has a lot of mouths to feed now, and I don't think AJ Brown's going to take a step back, but is he going to produce fantasy-wise at that price? Perhaps. And then you've got guys like Allen Robinson, a lot of money for 33. You just don't know how the season's going to go for the Bears. Austin Eckler at 46 to start. If you sign the 3-year deal, that's at $50 for the first year. That is a lot of money for Austin Eckler. He is going to be or could be, an RB1, a high-end RB1 potentially. But average auction price is 44. So I don't think it's worth overpaying that when you could probably save that money and maybe get him at 40 or something if you really like him.
What about James Robinson? Would you sign that contract? $10?
I mean, from everything I've seen and read, no one is high on James Robinson this year. And I think
you probably get him in the draft.
Yeah. It's a great call.
Yeah. Okay. So in the end, we'll go back through this once the moves have been made and once contracts have been signed. But some big things coming down the pike. We've got our and actually I was going to pull this up, but I can't find it. Couple big important dates to remember coming up here, right? First one is tomorrow. Today. I think we're going to release this tomorrow. So today, the first one is today, August 8th. This is the official league open date. Official trading can happen. Any moves that you'd like to be made can start to happen. So you can trade players, you can trade auction money, You can trade fab money, future fab money.
Yeah.
This
season's fab money.
This season's fab money.
And
yes.
next year's draft capital, if you were so inclined to.
Mm-hmm.
So 2021 draft capital, 2022 draft capital, and 2021 fab. And something that we didn't really even touch on, and maybe we should have been looking at Josh's team with $221, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Peter's team, and then my team too, with the extra capital, is some of these bloated contracts that we were discussing here, throwing a few dollars someone's way to take those players if Peter does really want to go out and get someone like a Kamara or one of those higher end guys. Maybe he just gives $2 to someone with less capital, and then has that contract that he could then.
Are you just trying to elicit trade offers right now?
No, but I'm saying
it certainly seems like that's what you're doing. Are you just trying to elicit trade offers?
No, but it's something that we could.
I'll trade you Ezekiel Elliott if you want. And you want to throw me back a couple bucks? We can do it live right here on the podcast.
I'm gonna have to pass on that.
Okay.
But there are some other guys like.
Sure. Yes, I think the moral of the story there being you could trade. You can trade auction money for players and vice versa. So, if you wanted to trade $4 for Michael Thomas, anybody, feel free. The next big date is August 18th. August 18th is the contract deadline. You must submit all contracts to the league office. You can do so by sending back in the contract worksheet, the spreadsheet that you received. Please list your players' initial value and the number of years, and send that page back into the league office so that we can submit it into the official workbook. And once that workbook has become official on the 18th, we will send it back out to you so that you can see all of the players that are being kept.
Really, anyway, if you just send us a text saying
no, please
player.
don't. No. Come on, John. I'm the one that's going to have to do the workbook. Please send me back the workbook page of your team with the players, the initial value, and the years that you want to keep them. That is the best way for us to handle this.
All right. The other big thing due that day on the 18th is league dues. As of this recording, only absolute fiasco.
Not true.
Kelly has sent me money.
I've received league dues from Mr. Porter, Josh Porter. So thank you very much to Kelly and to Josh. Keep them coming. You can again send them to either myself or Josh.
I am the treasurer, so Porter, Mike has kept your money, and
I spent it all shit.
Yeah, on booze and hookers.
Yep.
But then after that 18th, then we're going to have the draft on the 28th, and that will be in the morning for some people, and we'll have a viewing party and whatnot, so we can all hop on Zoom, and more details to come on that.
Indeed. All right. I think that's it for today. Thank you for tuning in to the official, season launch of the RTF show. We cannot wait to have you guys on as guests to get the season started. But good luck. Happy hunting out there. Good luck spending your money, putting together those contracts, and we'll talk to you soon.
Excited.
All right. Cheers, everybody.